Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:06 on O'Connor and Company. The Biden family is meeting at Camp David to decide the future of his political career and quite possibly the future of our country. Joe Biden is still asleep as his brains are mashed potato. Jill Biden, the First Lady of the United States, is on the cover of Vogue magazine.
Oh, God.
Dressed all in white, looking off into the hopeful future, saying, "We will decide our future." Do you feel like you're living in a movie script sometimes?
I do, honestly.
That's where we stand here on the first day of July. Coming up later in this program at 7:35, Hung Kao running for Senate, fresh off that rally with Donald Trump and Glenn Youngkin on Friday. 8:05, Jerry Lehman, the lobsterman in the center of the Supreme Court case that took down Chevron. 8:15, our friend Melissa Roby with We Back Blue. And then at 8:35, Julie Kelly, she's the reporter who's been covering the J6 convictions and how a decision on Friday from the Supreme Court was music to her ears and the ears of those who have been prosecuted by the Justice Department. I'm Larry O'Connor. That's Julie Gunlock. And, well, buckle up, Joe diGenova, because we got a lot to get to with you. How are you, sir?
Just fine, Larry, and lights, camera, action.
Yes. Listen, we want to talk about the decisions that came down, but today's the last day. They extended the Supreme Court session for decisions, and of course, the one that everyone's waiting for, it will be the most controversial, will be the most newsworthy. They really do have a sense of drama there at the Supreme Court. Today's the day we'll learn about Donald Trump's immunity and to what extent he has immunity. Joe, what do you predict? Because I got to say, you are batting 1,000. Everything. The only thing that sort of you hedged on with regard to the case on which one was it? The social media thing. You said that they would come down on the wrong side of that, and you said, I hope it's not on the merits, and it wasn't on the merits of the case. It was on standing. But other than that, you have guessed everything perfectly, Joe.
Yeah, well, not only do they have a sense of drama at the Supreme Court, but they have a sense of their own personal safety. The reason they saved the immunity case for last is that Trump's going to win. And he's going to win in a much more resounding way than people have thought. He's going to win on the immunity question. He's not going to get absolute immunity because they were never going to grant absolute immunity to a president for ordering the assassination of one of his political opponents.
Right.
But they are going to grant immunity for official acts committed while in office. Now, the question is, what is an official act? Well, a president of the United States is on duty 24 hours a day. He's never off duty. So that's going to make this a much more difficult issue if they send it back for fact-finding, which I expect they will do. The court will give him – he's going to say there is immunity, and they're going to say to what extent we need to have a test for that. So they're going to announce a test, and then they're going to send it back to the district court and the D.C. Circuit for further proceedings to build the record, and that will postpone both cases, the one in Florida and the one in D.C., until after the election. And so it's going to be a major victory for President Trump. There's just no doubt about it. But how they're going to do it, what kind of language they're going to use is anybody's business. I expect the Chief Justice will write the opinion because this is a structural opinion about the Constitution. And he, during oral argument, made it very clear that he believed that there's got to be some form of immunity. So he'll assign the case to himself. He'll write it. And it'll probably be 6-3 with the three liberals dissenting.
All right, Joe. Thank you and we'll know at 10 o'clock, and you'll hear it live here on the Chris Plante Show. Joe.
By the way,
yeah.
I have to confess error. I did make an error last week on your show. By the way, it was Andrew Weissman who lost the Enron case, not Jack Smith. I made a mistake last week.
Yeah, I knew it was one of those two from the Rogues Gallery, but
he lost 9-0 in the Supreme Court. Andrew Weissman on Enron, which, by the way, was the obstruction case, the abuse of the obstruction statute, and then it was Jack Smith who lost 8-0 in the Supreme Court on the Bob McDonnell
on Governor
bribery
McDonnell.
statute case.
That's right.
Sorry about that.
No,
My
that's all right.
apologies.
Andrew Weissman lost 9-0 on the Enron case. Then he was selected to be the lead prosecutor for Robert Mueller, and now he's a highly paid legal analyst for MSNBC.
That's right.
Joe, let's turn back to Chevron. As you heard, we've got the lobsterman on, the fisherman
Yes.
from Maine, who's going to be talking about it, Jerry Lehman. I've been told from people that this is one of the biggest decisions the Supreme Court has made in over 100 years. And on a sort of cursory way, we know that this has to do with the out-of-control administrative state and bureaucrats being able to sort of legislate and even make judicial decisions that the courts don't really obstruct or get involved with. I'm sorry if I'm mangling this. But my question here is sort of give us a quick overview, but also does this immediately sort of roll back a lot of the things that have happened under Chevron, or does Congress now have to step in and do something to roll back those regulations?
First of all, what Chevron ruled was that back a long time ago, the Supreme Court ruled that agencies, when you have an ambiguous statute and courts have to interpret what it means, the courts must give deference to the interpretation of the ambiguity given by the agencies. So they basically shifted what a statute meant from the courts to the agencies. The Supreme Court ruled the other day that no, that's wrong. Agencies don't determine what a statute means. Courts determine what a statutes mean. And so the deference to the agencies, which Chevron created, was overruled. Now, this was not a constitutional decision. This was a decision under the Administrative Procedures Act, believe it or not, of such magnitude. And what it means is that now U.S. district courts and United States courts of appeals, when there is an ambiguity as to what a statute means, the agency determination of that is not final. A court must determine what the ambiguity means. Now, the court said we do not set aside previous rulings under Chevron. This is a go-forward ruling. So all the old rulings under Chevron stand. Now, this is all in futuro, as we say in the law.
But if somebody wanted to challenge one of those rulings or bring the issue up again, we start from a clean slate, right?
That is correct.
There's no precedent.
Once you're affected by a regulation, you can sue. You have standing.
So let me give you, could I just do a real-world example? The Clean Air Act was passed decades ago. And at some point during the Bush administration, the EPA decided that the Clean Air Act really applied to carbon dioxide, too, even though it never did. I mean, clean air was about, smog and soot and all the things that make the air black and unclean. They decided carbon dioxide, the thing that we all breathe out, is also a pollutant. Someone can sue now and say, no, carbon dioxide isn't a pollutant, and they don't have to defer to some weenie brain at the EPA who's just been appointed to a lifelong position who isn't answerable to anybody.
They can do that, or they can do something which I think would be safer for legal reasons to make sure they have standing. You can say, I'm not going to obey that rule anymore. Sue me. Sue me, EPA. And once EPA either sues them or imposes a fine, that restarts that rule all over again. Yeah. And so the answer is that can all come into play again.
That would be great. We get carbon dioxide out of the list of air pollutants under the Clean Air Act that the EPA just arbitrarily put in. That's a game changer. And if you all believe in the climate change, greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide stuff, fine, believe it. Have your lawmakers pass a law about it.
Right.
There's never been a law passed by Congress that says, yeah, carbon dioxide is a pollutant. It was just somebody. So, quick, someone name me the guy at the EPA who has changed our lives forever because carbon dioxide is a pollutant. All right, more with Joe diGenova. We got to get to the Fisher case. That's the January 6th one, right?
Yeah.
And more with Joe diGenova. First, though, it's 7:15.
Miss anything? Don't worry, we've got you covered. Get today's breaking news on the Vince Colonnese Show, weekdays 3 to 6, right here on WMAL.
We continue now with Joe diGenova, legal analyst, former U.S. Attorney of the District of Columbia. He's right so often that he's not good enough to be on MSNBC, like Andrew Weissman. And Joe just predicted that the Supreme Court decision with regard to immunity for Donald Trump will come down in the president's favor. Real fast, and I want to throw it to Julie. When you say that, the Supreme Court cares about their safety and that's why they saved this for last, is that because they're gone, right? Now they're out of here. They're actually out of town and just going and doing their own thing. Is that why the last day is critically important?
Yes. Right.
Yeah. All right.
Exactly. And they that's why they won't be back inside that building except under the most extraordinary of circumstances, like perhaps an appeal from Donald Trump if Merchan gives him prison time.
So one quick follow-up on the immunity case. This will go back down to the lower court, and will they make Jack Smith sort of go line by line through the charges to decide which ones now? Yes,
he'll have to, because that's what this is all about. This is all about the specifics in an indictment and what you charge somebody with. And he will have to justify each charge along the way. But it's going to be more than that. There's going to be extensive fact-finding. Because, for example, if you're the President of the United States and you're standing behind the podium on the area behind the White House, and the podium says, President of the United States, it's the official podium.
Yeah.
It's been put there by people on the government payroll. You're out there giving a speech. There are Secret Service agents around you. They're being paid by the government. Is that an official act? The answer is yes, of course it is. He's acting as the President of the United States. Mm-hmm. But the people on the other side say, no, he isn't. He's a candidate. The hearing is going to be about stuff like that.
Yeah. And so it is possible that he'll still have charges after they go through everything, because some of them could have been in his personal capacity, not presidential.
It's all going. Yes, that is theoretically possible, but there are going to have to be very specific findings. The court is going to lay out a test. The Supreme Court. It's going to send it back. The judge in the trial court, Judge Chutkan, very unfriendly to the president, has an animus toward him. Her public statements are, in my opinion, should recuse her from sitting in a case like this, along with the former Chief Judge, Judge Lambert, made public statements that should recuse him, and Judge Reggie Walton, who has criticized the president, the law, everything you can think of, all Trumpers. This is, and what you've watched, by the way, is the degradation of the federal judiciary, not by people who criticize those courts, but by the courts themselves, who've demeaned their role in the country by becoming involved in the political process, something they're not supposed to do. So the hearings in front of Judge Chutkan are going to be extremely important, very interesting, and if she does her job correctly for the first time in this proceeding, it will delay the case beyond the election.
Joe, really quickly, wanted to pivot over to this Joseph Fisher case. Supreme Court on Friday ruled in favor of Fisher and throwing out an obstruction charge. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And also, what does that mean, not just for Joseph Fisher, but for some of the other January 6 defendants?
Well, in the Enron case, which we just talked about, which Andrew Weissman lost, the Supreme Court ruled that the application of that statute by Weissman in the case of Enron was wrong, 9-0. Then Congress passed an amendment to the statute, which made it clear that if you destroy documents while there's an investigation pending, that can be an obstruction. Jack Smith took that ruling and said, oh, it's more than that. It's if you show up and go to a proceeding and stand on your hands and yell or demonstrate or breach the Capitol. And the Supreme Court said, no, it's not. And Chief Justice wrote the opinion. He said, in order to violate this statute, you must destroy a document. You must delete emails like Hillary Clinton if there's an official proceeding. That's what they said this statute is about. Now they're going to have to figure out whether or not anything that Trump did violated that statute with regard to the documents case down in Miami.
Joe, your reflections here in our final minutes about the debate and what is quite possibly being discussed behind closed doors right now at the highest levels of power with regard to the president and potential succession.
Well, the debate obviously was a disaster, and then the media and the rest of the people, after a brief moment of truth, saying what a disaster it was, have now come to the defense of Biden because they've been given their marching orders by the White House. The truth is this was a disaster. Biden is clearly suffering from some form of dementia. It has gotten progressively worse since he was elected president. The American people see him. They watched him. That performance was an embarrassment to the country. But more important than that, it told Putin, go further.
Yeah.
It told Xi Jinping, invade Taiwan. That was the most, and it told the Iranians, you can do whatever you want because these idiots wanted to make peace with you by giving you billions of dollars, which you could use to fund terrorism with the Houthis and everybody else. Yep. The bottom line is this guy is not fit to be president of the United States. Nobody's going to use the 25th Amendment. This has to be decided by the election. The Biden family, remember, I'm from Wilmington, Delaware. I was born and raised with these people. These people are grifters. These people care about one thing, their money, their pocketbooks, how much they can get out of government, how much they can steal, how much they can coerce out of people who want to do business with the government. They're sitting up there at Camp David. Remember, this clown took a week off from being president of the United States. Can you imagine, with everything going on in the world, we didn't have a president for 1 week, and now they're trying to figure out how can we make a buck out of this if we get out of the race. That's what they're thinking. How do we make a buck out of this if we get out of the race?
Joe, enjoy your Independence Day. It's always great to have you every Monday, but especially in the middle of a news cycle like this. Thank God for you, Joe. Thanks, man.
You bet. Bye-bye.
It's 7:23. It's 7:36. O'Connor and Company here this Monday morning, first day of July. Coming up at 8:05, Jerry Lehman. He is the lobsterman in the center of the Supreme Court case that took down Chevron once and for all, and the administrative state with it. 8:15, Melissa Roby, We Back Blue, heading to Richmond to protect our cops. And at 8:35, Julie Kelly will get her take on the Fisher decision that, well, changes everything with regard to a lot of those J6ers. I'm Larry O'Connor alongside Julie Gunlock. Julie,
good morning.
Good morning. And at Camp David right now, they're deciding whether Joe Biden is going to stay on the ticket, maybe even stay in the White House. There's a lot developing as we speak. And we're waiting for the immunity decision from the Supreme Court coming at 10 o'clock. Let's bring in Hung Cao, though. He is the Republican nominee for Senate in Virginia. And, well, that was a pretty high-profile event Friday down in Chesapeake, Hung. You, Governor Glenn Youngkin, and Donald Trump coming off of that debate performance. What was the scene like, man?
Oh, hey, Larry. Good morning, Joy. Well, it's like this. It's like you ate a whole pack of Pixie Sticks and you chased it with 4 Monster drinks. That's what the energy in the crowd was like.
Wow. That sounds like a regular night at Hunter Biden's house.
It sounds like my house, frankly.
A little different powder, though. Yeah. Was there any moment where Trump, had like a private conversation with Trump? Did he give you any advice? You can tell us. It's just between us, just you and me.
No, absolutely. He said, Hung, we're going to win this. I'm like, yes, sir. No, he's like, we're going to crush Virginia. I'm like, yes, sir. We're going to crush it in Virginia. It's going to be amazing.
Well, tell me how it's been so far since the primary. You've had quite a bit of a whirlwind here, and especially with that rally on Friday. What are things looking like in Hungland?
Well, it's looking really great. We're on track to win Virginia. I mean, all the polls are showing that President Trump is, neck and neck or above Joe Biden at this point. And, when Tim Kaine comes out after a debate and says, I'm proud to be a ticket mate with Joe Biden and I'm proud to defend our record. I mean, I'm going to hang that around his neck like an anvil. I mean, let's talk about Jocelyn Nungari. Let's talk about Laken Riley. Let's talk about Rachel Marin.
Well,
where were you then when that happened?
Well, Hung, what the mainstream media wants to do is talk about your service record. And I'd love for you to go on the record here to sort of push back on this article from USA Today. So they take this one quote from you that you were, during your time in the service as a explosive ordnance disposal officer, which means you literally had to defuse stuff that was set to kill you and your comrades in arms. You use the term, I was out there serving and I got blown up. And they say, well, clearly he didn't get blown up. I don't think anybody actually thought when you said that it meant that you exploded into a million pieces, Hung. But tell me about this so-called investigation that USA Today tried to do.
First of all, it's a young activist. She tried to approach me at the rally also. She's just like a 22-year-old activist that calls herself a journalist. This is the same person that you go all the way back to February 15th, all the hit pieces from, the USA Today or anybody affiliated to them, including, all these little hit jobs here and there was from this young activist. They said, go out and get Hung Cao because they knew I was a big threat to Tim Kaine. And yes, I've been exposed to a lot of explosions, a lot. I mean, I've been in in vehicles that blew up, got blown up, and thank goodness for those vehicles. I've been in a lot of situations, and we lose 22 veterans a day from traumatic brain injury and TBI. 22 a day, Larry. I mean, this is more than we should ever see in our lifetime. And and they make a mockery of getting blown up or getting traumatic brain injury.
Yeah, and by the way, retired Captain Hung Kao has a Bronze Star from the Navy, and certainly based on your obvious record that is public knowledge, you saw a lot of action, and I think you've always said this compared to Tim Kaine and the paper cut he might have gotten. But I do love that USA Today says, well, Hung Kao claims that he has scars, and yet he has no Purple Heart. Because John Kerry got 3 Purple Hearts when he, got a splinter on his U-boat. Can you explain here how you can get a lot of scars going through the training and going through the service that you have did, but you don't actually put in for a Purple Heart?
Well, this is an affront to every disabled veteran in America. We're talking to millions of people. So you're saying that if you're a disabled veteran, again, I know people look at me going, he's not disabled. He's 170 pounds of twisted steel and sex appeal. I'm like, no, I am 100% disabled. But the thing is, you're saying that if you don't have a Purple Heart, you're faking it.
Right.
That's what they're saying.
Right. Yeah.
They're saying that any disabled veteran in America that does not have a Purple Heart is faking it. And this is the most disgusting thing I've ever heard from the USA Today.
It is it's ignorant is what it is. Julie, my future son-in-law, I can say now, my future son-in-law is a Marine Corps officer now. He's going to be assigned to an artillery unit, right? So he's been doing artillery training for about 3 months. And I just saw him this last week, and he said, yeah, I'm probably going to be disabled at the end of this because and it happens in artillery because of your ears. Yeah. Because of your ears. But he's not going to get a Purple Heart, but he's still a disabled veteran, or eventually will be. And it's so ignorant for USA Today to do this. Obviously, Tim Kaine and the Democrats are behind this hit job, right?
Yes, absolutely. Look, I told him, I said, I will be happy to show my medical records, all my brain scans, all my scars, all my every surgery I've gone through. As soon as Joe Biden either takes a...
So at a press conference, you're going to show up just in your skivvies and show every scar you've
Larry,
got?
No, he doesn't.
No, this could work with the suburban women's vote.
Don't encourage him. Larry. Don't encourage him. Listen, I just wanted to get quickly your reaction to the debates and what we saw there, continued disrespect for the military with Biden actually saying that no troops have died on my watch. What was your reaction to that?
Oh, I was serious. 11 Marines, 1 soldier, 1 sailor in Afghanistan, which caused me to really retire from the Navy and run for office. And then don't forget the 3 soldiers in Syria. I mean, the list goes on and on. Like, have you forgotten the people that served this country valiantly?
2 more soldiers in Iraq. I think 2 SEALs off the coast of Somalia.
Yep.
Yes, you're right. Yes, no, you're absolutely right. The 2 SEALs that were doing VBSS, the visit board search and seizure, but then he keeps bringing in Beau Biden. Your son did not die in Iraq. I'm sorry. Like, I know you keep wanting to tell everybody that it did not happen in Iraq.
Hung Kao is our guest. And Hung, one other question about this debate and about that despicable lie in particular that Joe Biden told. Where's Tim Kaine? Yeah. Where's Tim Kaine? Oh, the elder statesman, the guy. He used to be the chairman of the DNC. He likes to say that, he's going to tell it like it is. Tim Kaine has literally been missing in action. He's on the side of a milk carton right now. I haven't seen or heard anything from him. And so his silence, I think, adds to the disrespect of any veterans and their families in Virginia.
You're right. This man's on the Senate Armed Services Committee, and he should have stepped out and said, no, Mr. President, you're wrong. But no, he's like, hey, he's my ticket mate. Well, you know what? He's your daddy. That's what you're saying. You're so proud of him, but then you need to call him daddy.
I think we'll leave it there. And I'm just kidding. You probably shouldn't do the press conference wearing nothing but your skivvies. That would not be. Or if you are going to do it, do a pay-per-view. Right, raise some money for the campaign. Listen, we got OnlyFans running in Virginia, right?
Well, that's true.
Yes, it's called HotAsianDudes.com.
Oh, no.
See, there you go. Now USA Today is going to do another write-up.
Exactly.
HotAsianDudes.com. Is that even a thing? Oh, it is. Look at that.
No.
All right, I better leave it there.
Don't do it. It's not safe for...
Yeah.
What website would you like people to go to, Hung, if they want to support your campaign?
go to hungforva.com, at HUNGFORVA.com. Look, I'm willing to take all these shots every day because I know what Americans are feeling every day when they go to gas pumps and when they go to the supermarket and when they can't buy a home. So you know what? If this is all they had, like just attack my record, which, like I said, is a matter of public record, then go right ahead because I will fight every day for Virginians and for the United States.
There you go. It's not hotasiandudes.com. It's hungforva.com. By the way, if you make a typo when you type in hungforva.com, you get a website very similar to hotasiandudes.com. So be very careful when you type it. Hung Cow, thanks for joining us, sir.
Hung.
I love you guys.
Is it me? My only goal here is to get him in trouble
you.
somehow.
It's just you.
It is just me. 7:45.